I'm breathing underwater, I'm weightless through space. I'm soaring like an eagle all over this place. Creatures most will never see are waiting there to look at me, and all I gotta do is breathe underwater. This episode originally aired on December 21st, 1964. You may recognize that date as right before Christmas, which of course requires a Christmas episode. But I have to say, this one is fairly unique. In the far-off kingdom of Somewheria, we watch a couple of guys fiddling with a mechanism. Okay, maybe they're building it, whatever it is. Guys, that's not gonna offer much structural support. It squishes really easily.
It was the week before Christmas. But in this far-off land, the people prepare for quite another event. For it is written that each year the lords of the kingdom must weigh their king and balance his royal weight with much fine gold, a measure of their true devotion.
My next question is, what does the king do with all that much fine gold? If he's any kind of decent ruler, he uses it to provide for the people and maintain the kingdom. If he's not, he hoards it like a freaking dragon, and it doesn't do anybody any good, including him. Merry Christmas to you, too. Speaking of which, the crew of the Seaview are excited about getting a 10-day Christmas furlough. Most of them are heading home to see their families for the first time in months.
Bells jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
That has to be where Curly is going, because unless he has a court date, I don't see any other reason for him voluntarily putting on a suit and tie.
Hey, Cookie.
Yeah?
What's going on up there in the nose?
Hey, yeah, I thought the Admiral and the Captain were coming back to join the party.
Important business meeting up there. No time for parties.
I'm sorry, you said Christmas meeting? No such luck.
How long ago did this happen, Mr. Johnson?
Exactly 4 hours and 35 minutes ago.
Forgive me, sir, but why does the State Department feel called upon to involve us in this matter?
Admiral Nelson, the murder of King Vanian was the first step in a very carefully planned coup. In a matter of days, his country could be lost to the West.
It's good to know his priorities are in the right place. Alliances are way more important than people.
But that still doesn't explain why Seaview is needed.
Captain Crane, the next rightful heir to the throne happens to be right here in California. At the moment on tour.
The idea is to smuggle him aboard the Seaview and have them sneak him back to his country where he can take charge and put down the rebellion. That means Christmas leaves are canceled. The new king is on his way here even as we speak.
I'd like to add that, like all of you, I was looking forward to Christmas at home, too. I share your feelings now. That's all.
I told you Curly wasn't wearing that stuff because he wanted to. That's Prince Ang. He doesn't know it yet, but he's now King Ang. But even a king can only get so many notes out of a little penny whistle. Get him an actual recorder so he can assault your ears properly.
Welcome, Your Highness.
We are pleased to be here. My military aide, Colonel Measure.
How do you do, sir?
And my governess, the Countess de Marche.
Gentlemen.
And George, my valet.
That State Department bean counter might have told them the prince is about 10 years old, but where's the fun in that? Watching their expressions is way more interesting. Unfortunately, now he has to inform the prince that his father has been assassinated. The boy will take a little time to weep and then get down to business.
This is the absolute truth about my father.
Yes.
And I am the king. Now I give the orders.
Now, Your Highness, a prince is always courteous to his elders.
Silence! I am the king. No one can say no to me anymore.
You're only king of your own country, kid. Anybody who isn't a citizen of your country can say no to you all they want, including Admiral Nelson and Captain Crane. As a rule, they won't, but they do have the right.
This is the best cabin. Better than all the others.
It is?
Then it shall be mine.
But, these happen to be my quarters, Your Highness.
You refused to give them to me.
And I was only trying to explain it.
Admiral, do you wish to keep the friendship of our country?
The cabin is yours, Your Highness.
I wonder who told him that a king is entitled to manipulate people to his heart's content. This kind of behavior is what causes things like rebellions and assassinations. They know the rebel forces want to kill Aang too, which is why all the secrecy and stuff. But he doesn't seem to grasp any of that. All he knows is, me king, you servant.
Oh, Admiral, I'm looking for the king's quarters.
This is now the king's cabin.
Oh, but this was yours, wasn't it? He's an interesting little boy, isn't he?
Tell me, Countess, exactly what are your duties to the king?
Well, I'm his teacher. In French, English, manners, deportment. I teach him to be a royal gentleman.
You've done a lousy job because that little brat is anything but a gentleman.
Really? And who's teaching him how to be a royal human being?
Nobody, that's the problem. Again, if she's been trying to teach him to be a gentleman, she failed spectacularly. He's getting ready for bed, but he has a hunch. How did he bring a pistol on board? He parks himself in a dark spot and waits. He didn't hit anything important, but it's enough to bring just about everybody running. He says, someone was here and they tried to kill me.
My pistol. I told you never to touch my pistol.
You just don't care. Nobody cares that somebody tried to kill me.
No, Your Highness. Just tell us what happened.
Someone came in here with a knife. It was dark. I couldn't see. They came to kill me.
You were having a nightmare.
No, it was no dream. There. Does that look like a dream?
I know he's an obnoxious, spoiled little wart, but he does know the difference when a very real knife is sticking out of the lump that was supposed to be him. Stop patronizing. Too many adults do that when a child tells them something unexpected. Instead of assuming you know more than the kid who was in the middle of it, shut up and listen to him.
How long have you been getting these readings?
Independently, sir, and always at extreme range.
Any trouble, Ling?
I don't know, sir. 3 or 4 times in the last hour we've gotten flash readings at extreme range. Maybe it's nothing but a passing school of fish.
But another vessel. Are we being shadowed?
Oh, the thoughts crossed my mind.
But Johnson warned me of the possibility. We'd better alter course.
I agree.
His Highness has taken over the periscope island. It's raised and wide open so he can see all around him and nobody can sneak up on him.
You feel safer with everyone around you, is that it?
Yes.
Admiral, how are we supposed to run a ship with this kid underfoot?
Do not speak to me that way, Captain. I am king, and you will show me due respect.
And he's the captain of this boat, and you will show him due respect. Again, I have to point out, he's not one of your subjects. He doesn't have to obey you if he chooses not to.
I can't get the attack on the boy out of my mind. Flea, you've taken every possible security precaution.
Yes, I have. But just between you and the Admiral, couldn't he have made the whole thing up?
Well, he didn't make up the assassination of his father. He certainly didn't invent that knife.
I get why Crane is angry at the kid, but come on. He just learned that his father was murdered. He now has the weight of an entire country on his shoulders, and someone threw that knife. There's also the fact that he has no reason to make up a story like that. You've seen the way he throws his weight around. Do you really think he's going to invent a tale that makes him look so vulnerable?
I've got an uneasy feeling it's going to be a long while before we settle this.
But no one knew why or where he was going until after he came aboard.
Well, one of his party could have had standing orders.
Standing orders?
Well, the moment something happened to the father, they could have had orders to proceed against the son. Now, that's quite possible, you know.
You mean one of his own people?
There's only one other possibility, one of his own people or a member of this crew.
Well, in my opinion, there's only one person aboard who'd be likely to attack him.
Who?
Me.
Okay, I'll give him that one. Corporal punishment has fallen out of favor in recent decades, but in 1964 you could hear at least 2/3 of the viewing audience begging someone to turn this kid over their knee.
I'm afraid there's nothing we can do about this.
Nothing we can do. A ship's going down. We better search for survivors.
We can't hold their course. Our orders are specific. There are other ships in the area. They can search for survivors.
Aye, sir.
I can see you don't approve.
Well, it's not that. It's just hard to believe that one spoiled kid could be worth all this.
Welcome to the wonderful world of international politics, Captain. Don't you wish you had more assignments like this one?
Just a minute. Where do you think you're going?
His Highness would like to have his lunch.
Well, we would he? Well, you just tell your Highness he'll have to take his turn like everybody else. I'm busy.
I intend to prepare it myself.
No, you don't. No one allowed in this galley but me.
His Highness needs to learn the meaning of the word boundaries.
You will let me pass or I will have you thrown into irons.
Take it out. Go on. Take it out.
George realizes he's outnumbered, so he backs off and leaves. And yes, that looked a lot like the other knife. It's a sure sign he's not the assassin. My money's on the Countess, but it could be the General. Or Captain Crane.
There it is, Captain. We're picking it up again.
What do you make of it?
It could be a sub.
I've got to assume that's exactly what it is. Keep scanning.
Aye, sir.
Maneuvering. All ahead flank. Take full evasive action.
All ahead flank. Full evasive action.
A couple of torpedoes in the water pretty well confirm that it's a sub. It's not hard for the Seaview to avoid them.
Your Highness. Your Highness, I was not allowed to enter the galley to fix your lunch. The cook lifted a cleaver to me.
A cleaver? They lifted a cleaver to you?
What's the trouble here?
Why, how dare they? To a member of my staff.
Well, Your Highness, just a moment. Now, how can I settle anything if I don't know what happened?
My valet has told me what happened, and now I'm telling you.
No, you're not. You're screaming and not saying anything. And again, the word of the day is boundaries, kid.
Admiral, can't you get this kid out of here?
How dare you speak of me that way? Admiral, I want this man arrested.
Your Highness, why don't you shut up?
I cannot tell you how satisfying that was. And there's no time for His Pompous Highness to be indignant because sonar just announced the torpedoes. Much to his chagrin, while the captain announces battle stations, the colonel picks his royal body up and carries him off the bridge. He's a military man. He understands that king or no king, his royal littleness is in the way.
Ready tubes, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Tubes 5, 6, 7, and 8 ready.
Firing order, 5, 7, 6, 8.
Fire in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Fire 5, 5 fired.
He's taking the scattergun approach. Fill the water with enough torpedoes and there's no way this dude can avoid them all.
Scratch one sub.
Incoming message from Captain Crane. Told you.
Admiral Nelson. His Highness sends his compliments and asks permission to return to the control room.
But I'm afraid that's a matter for the captain to decide, Countess.
Oh, please, Captain. I'm sure he'll behave himself.
Tell His Highness that he's welcome here, as long as he doesn't interfere with the command of the ship.
Thank you. I'll convey the message.
Look who learned a little bit about who runs the boat. They're picking up another contact, this time on the surface. Whatever it is, it's adrift. They come to periscope depth.
Everything all right, Your Highness?
What's happening now?
We're investigating an object on the surface.
Let me look first.
Is that an order, Your Highness?
It's a request. You're the captain.
Well, in that case, be my guest.
By Jove, I think he's starting to get it. It's a lone man in a lifeboat. The king insists they need to rescue him and bring him aboard.
The king has spoken, Lee. All we can do is obey.
Aye, aye, sir.
He goes by John. He won't give any other name.
I command it!
Well, now, there's a remarkable thing to encounter in the middle of the Pacific. A boy no bigger than a sardine, giving orders.
I don't know what there is to say about Carroll O'Connor. He did hundreds of roles, and to an entire generation, he'll always be Archie Bunker, the crazy-eyed bigot on All in the Family. He exposed the dark underside of the baby boomer generation and showed the world what needed to change. It still hasn't, but that's not on him. He laid it out in words of one syllable. The fact that we're still dealing with the stuff he showed us is an indictment of the whole country.
Your Highness, think what you're doing permitting this derelict to come aboard. What do we know of him?
Only that he is mine, Colonel. I found him and he belongs to me.
I wonder if old John has anything to say about that. He's not a dollar you found on the street.
You are welcome, friend. I found you and I will protect you. I am the king, and I declare you my friend.
Thank you, Your Majesty. After drifting around on the wide and empty ocean, it's comforting to hear one sweet and gentle word.
The colonel and the countess are having fits so fast they can't have him right, but he's the king and his word is law. He's completely taken with his new friend to the point of insisting that John share his quarters.
Oh, how did he get out there in the middle of the ocean in a lifeboat?
Which story do you want?
Hmm?
When I first questioned him, he said that he was a ship's captain and his freighter had gone down in the storm.
Of course, the radio message we got.
Yeah. That almost makes sense.
But you say he told you another story.
Yeah, he was in the crew's mess. I was passing by. You know what I heard him telling Curly?
What?
He said that he had been king of an island. The volcano erupted and the island sunk.
One is as possible as the other. If he was on that ship they got the distress call about, it went down awfully fast. And the volcanic destruction of a small island in the middle of nowhere wouldn't attract that much attention on the world stage. It's also possible they're both pure baloney. There's no way to tell.
John? Where did you get that?
Ah, well, this is the one thing I was able to salvage from my boat. And I think I ought to play you a tune on it, Your Highness, by way of appreciation, because the food here is very, very good. And the clothes are warm and dry, and I'm a contented man. And when you're going to invite me inside?
Right now.
Oops. That man has orders not to let anybody into the king's cabin. His Highness will overrule it, and he and John will sit down and talk. John will play for him, and he has a special knack for making the king smile and laugh. He realizes what this boy needs most. I remember when Princess Diana was killed. William and Harry were still children. People all over the world said somebody loved those boys. They're going to need all they can get. Aang is no different. For all his royal lineage, he's a boy, a child. He needs to be taught and guided, and most of all, loved. The Countess has failed in every department. Suddenly, this man appears out of nowhere, and he genuinely cares about this young fella. You can't blame Aang for getting attached. He's had to spend his whole life detached.
Where do you come from?
You want to hear my story too, do you? Well, boy, I'm a treasure hunter, and I just drift around from spot to spot, looking and looking and digging for treasure.
Here comes story number 3.
Did you ever find any?
Oh, indeed I do. Barrels of it, great enormous chests of it, all the time.
What do you do with it?
What do I do with it? Well, I take it home with me. What else would I do with it?
Give it to a museum or antiquities department in the country where you found it?
And where's home?
Way out beyond, where the clouds ride on the shoulders of the sea.
If you're starting to get the feeling there's more to Old John than meets the eye, you're following the script. I wish I could find more information on the king. His name is Michel Petit, and he was born in Belgium. He appeared in several shows like the Beverly Hillbillies, and that's as much information as I could find. It helps so much that there's a hockey player of the same name, and I found more on him than I ever wanted to know. I can tell you this much, he's good. His transition from morose little orphan with unlimited power to a laughing, curious little boy is completely believable. I also like the way he and Carol O'Connor are playing off each other. It feels natural. All in the Family wouldn't premiere for another 4 years, but O'Connor was already a thoroughly established character actor. I can't help wondering how awesome it was to work with him like this. Even if he never did another thing, this kid had something to tell his grandkids about that time Carol O'Connor tucked him into bed.
There's one thing I have to know.
What?
Do you snore in your sleep?
Why, no. At least, I don't think I do.
Ah, now that's better. There's an improvement. You're not sure. You're a wee bit humble. Now you're beginning to sound more like a king.
It's not a spoiler because we're watching it unfold. John is going to teach him more about being the right kind of king in this 1 hour than the Countess has taught him in who knows how many years. The best part? His Highness is listening.
Come on, Chief, it's your play.
Put a card down. Put a card down.
Don't hesitate, Curly. Sure, I only taught the lad the game today. He's a beginner. Discard, friend.
Gin.
When he arrived on the boat, if anyone had tousled his hair like that, he would have demanded the death penalty. Now he's laughing with them. This is the difference a good teacher makes. Off to bed now. I told you it was probably the Countess. Even before they turn the lights on, we can see her face during that struggle.
Put this woman under arrest. Take her below.
No! I want her put to death. Now.
You're on American soil, so to speak. You don't give orders like that. And besides, they can't hang her from the yardarm because they don't have one.
Now, wait a minute.
Silence! This woman tried to kill the king, and now she must pay.
Here, here, boy. That's a tyrant's way, an eye for an eye. Now, if I were king...
Well, if you won't do it, I will!
Stop it!
Take her below.
Here, now. Listen to me.
The next time you're tempted to do something like that, stop and ask yourself, WWJD, what would John do?
As I was saying, if I were king, I'd let justice be carried out according to the law of the land. And that's the way I'd be a great king.
John, I want you to bring His Highness forward to the observation nose. He has to make a very grave decision.
The Seaview is just outside the country's main harbor, and they have a message from the American embassy.
Rebels have captured the government television station. They're telling the people that the Americans have killed the king and his son. The embassy warns us not to try to land.
Aang is a king without a country at the moment. They have an idea, but it involves that grave decision the Admiral mentioned.
You mean you want to take pictures of me with that here?
Not here, in the radio shack. We can patch into your government's channel with special transmission equipment.
Oh, yes, I see. The people of our country will be able to see for themselves that their king is alive and ready to take the throne.
It's our only chance to get your highness back into your own country.
Remember, as far as the people know, he's as dead as his father. Reading between the lines, these people are very devoted to their royal family, and if a member is still alive and able to govern, the rebels can take a hike.
But there are risks. We have to break silence. That means the enemy forces can locate us.
Yes. What we have to do is dangerous, but it's the only way.
If it is my duty as a king, I will do it.
But I must say yes in a verbose fashion as befits royalty.
My people, this is your king. I speak to you from a place not far from my kingdom. So you will realize that I am alive today. And this is not a film of the past. I tell you, it is now close to midnight on the 24th day of December. I am here to beg you to rally to our throne, to put down the rebels that wish to turn our government into puppets and ourselves into slaves.
That's royalese for, hey, I'm alive and well, you can kick those guys out now. And they will. Soon enough, government forces are in control of the TV station again. But that signal gave them away, and a whole fleet of ships is bearing down on them. This could be bad.
Gentlemen, those propellers we hear belong to the advanced units of the United States 7th Fleet.
The State Department has changed its mind about this country, and the fleet is here to sink you. Wait, that's not what this is supposed to say. It's supposed to be or not. How? Wow, what applause! And he hasn't even played the recorder yet. He sits down to do that weigh-in thing his dad was doing. I hope they checked the mechanism carefully this time.
And so it came to pass that in this far-off land a new king sat upon the scales, while the lords of the kingdom matched his royal weight with much fine gold.
It required much less gold than was the case with previous kings. But as long as John is there, King Aang can deal with this. He can even manage to sit up straight in a moving chair no matter how many tries it takes.
Where did he go?
I don't know. I think the king is wondering the same thing, too.
He looks like a lonely little boy, doesn't he?
Because he is a lonely little boy. He has a butler who waits on him hand and foot, a military man who keeps him safe, and a lousy teacher who was also a traitor. Who spent time getting to know this kid, listening to his fantasies, telling him stories, hanging out with him. They've treated him like an expensive piece of art, not a child. John is the only one who's talked to him as an equal and showed interest in him as a person. John dropped some hints that he couldn't stay, but Ang tried to blow them off. He's not sure what he'll do now. John said he would always be with him. He didn't say what he'd look like.
Something troubling you, Lee?
Oh, no. I was, just wondering about that man, John. Who was he? Where do you suppose he came from?
I don't know. It's a curious thing. This is where we picked him up. Right near this island.
Christmas Island.
I don't know about you, but that kind of brought it down a little for me. I'm not that big a fan of being hit in the face with it like that. I prefer it when they keep it subtle and leave you guessing just a little bit. John was some kind of Christmas angel or spirit who appeared because he knew a little boy needed him. And just like Elliot the Dragon, now he's off to help some other kid in need, we assume. As Christmas episodes go, this may be one of my favorites. We did the Christmas miracle thing, but we did it in a very different way because Ang is the Christmas miracle, not John. John was the device that made the miracle happen. He took Ang from an angry little boy who felt his new power allowed him to throw temper tantrums to a happy young man with a bright future as a good and benevolent ruler. And as he grows, they'll be bringing him more and more gold, too. It's always nice when you have a way to keep up with inflation.
I'm breathing underwater, I'm weightless through space. I'm soaring like an eagle all over this place. Creatures most will never see are waiting there to look at me, and all I gotta do is breathe underwater.
December 21st, 1964. Good grief. Ang for getting attached. Attached? Oops. Okay, come on. I can say oops. Good grief. I wish I could find more information on the king. Transition from more... boy. Lost that one completely. Reading between the lines. Reading! S's are not coming out today. I sound like Sylvester.